I'm gonna ground the amplifiers in this area right here. These have ring terminals on them. Obviously these are way longer than they need to be. We'll cut these to length and add in our own new ring terminals. With the ring terminal added, I like to put heat shrink on the end of the wire just to finish it off. For grounding the amplifier, we use a kit from positiveground.com. It's a 3-step process. In the kit, you get a star washer and a self-tapping screw. It's more of a self-threading screw. There's also nuts in the kits if you want to put it in from the backside. The first is this tapered drill bit. We have to drill a hole into our metal with that. The next step is this. This is a wire brush, and it has a center pin in it that's gonna line up with that hole we just drilled and give us a nice clean area. And last is the nut driver to tighten it into place. And there you have it, a super ground that we'll never have any problems with. With the power side taken care of, it's time to run the signal, speaker wires, and everything else up the driver's side of the car and get them into the dash. This radio has CarPlay, and it's a wired CarPlay, so we need a USB somewhere convenient in the front of the dash. For that, we're going to be using the USB DMA1, which is a 12-inch pigtailed flush mount USB. We also have the bass knob. On the F150, they have this cool area right here, which is just screaming for it to go on to. The problem is his is broke, which means if we mount it here and you go to pull, like I can't even pull out the cigarette lighter without this falling off. It's okay though, we're gonna fix it. Plan is to mount the USB here and our bass knob in the middle. This is already falling out, so we need to get this out so that we can mount our USB into it without, of course, breaking this whole panel. It gently will snap out. We need to remove this collar off of here because we're gonna need that to go into here. To mount my bass knob, I need to remove this piece right here so I can have a nice flush mount. Find my center point. I use a silver Sharpie to do that. Pull the bass knob off, remove the 2 screws from the bottom, and the guts of this will pop right out. For the most part, you could just use this the way it is, put it in. We have the bag of screws to tighten it up. However, we're going for longevity here. What we like to do is take heat shrink and put 2 layers of heat shrink over this whole thing, making it just a little bit stronger. Sometimes, depending on the bass knob, we'll also take CA glue and put it all around this seam here to give it an extra layer of rigidity. I'll let that sit and cool down, and while that's happening, I'll drill my hole. I like to use a step bit for that. Don't apply a lot of pressure, let the bit do the work. You don't want this thing to crack in half as you're drilling through it. It's happened before, it really sucks. Do it from both sides to deburr it. Test fit as you go. You don't want to make the hole too big. Grab the little parts bag that has our washer and nut on it. Get those both on there. Tighten it down. Now this is not an infinite spin. It has a stop and a start point. I like to turn it until I get my logo just right. As far as logo placement, that's entirely up to you. If you want it to where it's all the way up, the logo is the right direction, you can do that. To lock this back into place, we're going to be using some hot staples. These are made to bond plastics back together. They come in different shapes and sizes depending on the intended purpose, but they're perfect for something like this. As you're putting them in, just kind of wiggle them into place. They get super hot and they'll melt right in. Let them cool for a couple minutes. They have little legs that are going to stick off the back depending on which ones you get. Some you have to cut, some will easily break off. Do a little test fitting. As you can see here, we've added them to the lock points. The metal now has woven between the 2 pieces of plastic and joined it and made it one. The subwoofer in this car is going to be a pair of Rockford P3 shallow dual 4-ohm speakers. The dual 4-ohm part is very important so that we can get that 1-ohm load. If you do get a Rockford subwoofer of any kind, it's going to have a metal trim. That's what all these yellow stickers are telling you. Pull the box out and as you can see underneath is a trim. They also give you really nice screws. I recommend strongly using the screws that they give you. This is a dual voice coil, and it's a dual 4-ohm voice coil. Let's back it up. Dual voice coil. That means on this there's going to be 2 sets of leads. Voice coil 1, voice coil 2. And they both have to be used in order for the speaker to work properly. Depending on how you wire these two up, you're going to get different ohm loads. And this is where people get really confused. We need a 1 ohm load to get the maximum power out of that amplifier. We're going with 2 subwoofers. How do we get a 1 ohm load? 2 2-ohm loads in parallel will give us that 1 ohm load. We have 2 dual 4 ohm. What are we doing? Can we make this a 2 ohm driver? Actually, yes. There's 2 ohm loads that you can manipulate a dual 4 ohm driver to be. If I connect both positives, both negatives together, will give me a 2 ohm driver. If I put a jumper across 1 positive and 1 negative, and then connect my outputs here, that will give me an 8 ohm driver. If I make this 8 ohm and make the other one 8 ohm, that'll give me a 4 ohm driver. If I make this 2 ohm and the other one 2 ohm, then I will get that 1 ohm that I need at the amplifier. If I was to have a dual 2 ohm driver, they're not going to work and get me a 1 ohm load. I have 2 options as far as the ohm load I can get out of a single dual 2 ohm driver. If I connect both positives and both negatives, I'll get 1 ohm. If I connect 2 1 ohm drivers together, that's going to give me a half ohm load. That's not going to work on this amplifier. If I connect 1 negative to a positive with a jumper and then come off of here to my amplifier, that's going to give me a 4 ohm load. 2 4 ohm loads together give me a 2 ohm load, not what we want on this amplifier. For us, we need to wire up our speaker cups with a wire going off to each positive and a wire going off to each negative. We have 2 runs of wire. I like to use 2 different colors, one for one voice coil, one for the other. Soldering the wire in place, adding a little bit of shrink wrap to go over the ends. With that end attached, we move off to the other end. Strip these back, grab a wire ferrule, add it into place. The last step I like to do is add a little bit of fleece tape to it, more just so that these 2 wires don't rattle around in the box. You could also use foam tape or anything like that, that'll just quiet it down. And there's the wire all set and ready to go. On the Stinger wire, they have a square side and a round side. The square side is positive, the round side would be negative. Plug both ends. Make sure the woofer is straight. On a Rockford woofer, it has 4 regular style screw holes. And then it has these longer style screw holes. Start with the longer styles. I like to put my screws in the corners. I see a lot of people putting the screw in the middle. The problem with doing that is it doesn't get a nice good grip. Go opposites when screwing in the woofer. One of the options Rockford does offer is a nice mesh grill to protect the woofer. When doing something downfiring, I strongly recommend it. This is an aluminum cone. So if anything gets in there, it's gonna dent the cone. It goes on first, then their aluminum trim ring will go on, and that's what's gonna lock it into place. And there we have it. Fernando has just informed me that the wire underneath the hood is all mounted and in place. He added the strip caulk into the holes that he drilled there to make sure that they're nice and watertight. Zip tie the wiring up into place. We can now get a better look of those fuses. He's added in shrink tubing with the model numbers of the amplifiers. That way we'll know which one is going to which amp. He puts it on both ends, just in case you have to take both of them apart, you'll know which way they go back together. All our wires are up into the dash. A couple things we've done off of camera. This had a backup camera in it, and it didn't work. Well, it kind of worked. We've troubleshooted it and figured out that the RCA that they had soldered on was bad. Placed that with another RCA, and we've also shielded up the wiring. We added purple, so that it'll match up with our purple connection. We've also attached our speed wire up to the factory wiring harness. Our RCAs are located in the dash now. And we've ran over our hands-free microphone. Now is the time to screw our radio back into place. If you remember at the start of this, one of the problems that we noticed was the radio wasn't setting flush in the dash. We made some 1/4-inch spacers to bring the top out. When you buy the kit new, it actually comes with those. Do a quick check just to make sure everything is plugged in that is supposed to be plugged in, that your front and rear is proper, and you can mount it in the dash. We found some extra screws to replace the screws that were missing. Just click one of the top corners in place. We don't want to totally attach this yet. It's time to turn it on and see if it all works the way it's supposed to. At this point, we should get sound and all our features should work. So we'll test our CarPlay, our steering wheel controls, balance and fader. Make sure that it is in all four corners. We're good there. We'll move on to the polarity test. This is going to allow us to see if our speakers are moving in the right direction. Balance and fader is good. Polarity is where it needs to be. The volume control buttons on the steering wheel all work. The last thing we're going to test before we go into the next phase of testing is the hands-free microphone. What's the weather like today?
54 degrees.
I'm gonna hop into the back, disconnect the speaker wires from the amplifier, and set our gains. For this, we're gonna be using the EduCar Test and Tune app. We'll have it on the test page where we have our test tones here across the bottom. We have 40, 250, 1K, and 8K at both 0, -5, and -10 dBs. We're gonna do the highs amp first. We're gonna start with the 1K test tone. Make sure your radio is set to flat. Kenwoods are nice because they come with the EQ off. Turn the radio up as high as we can. And what we're looking for is clean in. This light right here, we want to make sure that light does not come on either one of the amplifiers during this test.
All the way up.
Start turning the gain up at 0 dB. As you can see, that light comes on there. That is a 0 dB indicator. We'll do the same on this one. If we wanted to leave the gain set best possible scenario, meaning no distortion, no nothing, then we would just turn this back till that light went off, just like that, and we'd have 0 dB of overlap. If we're playing songs that are older, might not sound as loud. If we're playing songs that are newer, it'll probably sound fine. We know that this gentleman is going to be playing a lot of classic rock. We're going to want to make sure we give him a little bit of leeway, so we're definitely going to be going to the -5 dB on the highs amp. Turn up the gain a little bit more. Alright, so we have the light on, light is off, and turn it down till the light is off. On this, it moved like between 0 and -5. It was oh so slight. It was like not even a 1/16 of an inch. When you're setting these up without some form of adjustment, that's how close these tolerances are. Let's move on to -40, 0 dB on the sub amp. And again, we're looking at the clean out here.
40, -5.
Alright, so the light is on there. Dial it back till the light is off. This also has punch bass. If you like a boomier sound, which I feel this will help, start turning that up and your clean light will come on. So you do have to go back and adjust your gain accordingly. So as you turn punch bass up, turn gain down, and vice versa. If it's too boomy, we can turn the punch bass down and turn the gain back up. We're all set here. Make sure you turn your volume all the way down at this point and turn the car off. But you want to make sure you turn the volume all the way down before you turn the car off, because when you turn it back on, you don't want it to be blasting you. The amplifiers are done. The gains are set. Are you ready?
Yes,
are you ready to listen to it?
Oh yeah.
It's time to do the listening portion of it. We'll take a quick listen to it, see how it sounds, and then we'll hop in with the iTest mic. We'll see what it looks like on the RTA, if there's a little bit of tweaking we can do with the EQ. Since we're done now, we've snapped the dash back in place, and you can see it fits much nicer. It's the same kit, but it gives a totally better look. Much cleaner. I can't see through the side of the dash now. Fast forward a little bit to now, where we're doing our final listen to it. Let's take a look at the output from the radio, pink noise. This is what I've come up with, which sounds a whole lot better. Just a few tweaks here and there, just to get the sound where we wanted, not so peaky, didn't have that giant bump there. Once I get something pretty close to how I want it, even though it's just a basic radio, I'm gonna bring Fernando in, let him listen to it. He'll give me the final, yeah, I like it, or I don't like it, and if it's not, then we'll go back. So Fernando felt it was a little bit too punchy, and I agreed with him. Actually, I asked him, I was like, you think it's too punchy? It was too punchy. Went back and adjusted the punch EQ a bit to tone it down. That's why they're knobs. so you can have fun with it. Well, the one thing we realize when we're tuning a radio, I think we can both agree on this, that more than likely it's not going to stay the way we've set it up.
No, not at all.
When you tune a DSP, it gets burned into it. No one wants to dig into that, but it's a radio. They're going to start tweaking it. So why do we do it? Presentation. When we give them the keys, or when Paul gives them the keys, we want them to hop in, turn it on, and we want them to be impressed. We want to make sure that it's like, oh my God, this, because you only get that one time to impress them. That's it. That's so if you gotta, you know, we make it sound the best that we possibly can before it leaves, so that when they hop in and they turn it on, and I'm not sitting in the seat telling them what they need to listen for, or he's not sitting in the seat telling them all the funness, or because it doesn't always happen. They can hop in, they can turn it on, and they'll be like, oh wow, and they'll get that moment. 2 months from now, if they decide, or a week, or tonight when they go home, if they decide to screw everything up, well, it's on them.
Yeah.
I can't fix that.
And it happens. Sometimes people come back and say, hey, you know, I screwed up. I started messing with the EQ and it doesn't sound the same. Of course, now you have to, you know, do it again.
Now the nice thing is like the Kenwoods have presets and they have memories, so you can set it all up, press the memory button, which I'll do right now before I forget. Go into the EQ, go to auto memory, go to audio setup, select yes, and now it's done. That's it. And with that, well, this guy is done. We're gonna deliver the car. Fernando, if you please.
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a great day as always. We hope you enjoyed this. Ooh, a new twist. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.